Hello, my name is Teresa Anderson. I work for Agorapulse as the head of agency business. I'm super excited to bring you this session today where we're going to get the chance to ask questions from Robert Craven, who is the founder of GUIDA, or Grow Your Digital Agency Initiative. I love Robert personally. He's one of my favorites. And I find that when I see content from Robert, I instinctively grab for my notepad because there's always so much genius, actionable information that Robert brings to the table. So we are super lucky to have him here today. The format today is going to be really exciting and good for you because it's going to give you a chance to ask your questions live of Robert right now. As we have time together, you can learn from your peers by listening to their questions and ask your own questions. So the format's going to be, we're going to have Robert kick us off with some tips and tools, what you need to do a kick-ass kickoff meeting. Doesn't matter what you're kicking off, if it's the year or a new initiative or a new strategy, this is going to give you all the tips and tools you need to make that as awesome as it can be. So I don't want to take up too much time because after Robert gives us all that great information, we're going to open up the mic to everyone. So Robert, thank you for being here. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you very much. And it's absolutely awesome to be here. Absolutely fantastic. So I have about 10 minutes and I'm going to give you like as much as I can possibly can in that period of time. So conducting a kick-ass kickoff meeting. Let's just get going on this. So why do I care about this? Because I'm on the board of 4 agencies and it's really important that we have great meetings. We have great opening meetings to each year. Why you should care? Same reason, because you want to have great meetings where things actually happen, where it's not just the thing where people turn up, take notes, drink coffee and go home. You want to make sure that your meetings actually create deliverable actions for your agency. And what you'll get from today is you're going to get a couple of tools and a couple of tips about running essentially that opening meeting of the year, a kickoff meeting, specifically around strategy, but this can apply to anything at all. So let's go. So first thing is the work that I've done comes from working with, you know the bell curve. In the middle is everyone, but right at the top, there's these really extraordinarily great agencies. Well, we're not looking at the top 0.25%, we're looking at the ones just beneath it. And what we've seen is that they do the same things again and again and again. The way in which they set up their year, the way in which they set up their planning is plus or minus 5% what I'm going to show you right now. This is what we've put into agencies, both small and large, and that they've seen results as a result of it. So let's get going. First question, and this is tip number 1. Why are we doing this? So I don't want to get bogged down with Simon Sinek and purpose, but at every point, on every meeting, on every note, on everything that you do, right at the top, tell people why we're doing it. Be clear about why we're doing it. That becomes your purpose, and it reminds you about why you are doing it and making sure that you are on track. So I'm going to show you the meeting prep and I'm going to show you the meeting itself, and there will be a link later on which will show you, which will share a lot of these sheets for you. So in terms of the meeting prep, I'm suggesting for a kickoff meeting for the year that you ask people to go away and answer the question, how good is the agency? This is tool number 1, and I'll come back and I'll show you that in a minute, okay? And then secondly, you could ask people to sit down, create a 3x3 matrix, and in column 1, it's about the business. In column 2, it's about my career and my professional life. And in column 3, it's about my private life. And down the side, you go, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do in a year's time? Where do I want to be in 3 years' time? And that 3x3 matrix will get people thinking about what do they want out of the business? What do they want out of their lives? Okay. I would send people those 2 meeting prep sheets, send them those 2 meeting prep sheets so that they are ready for the meeting. Now we go into a standard strategy meeting. Who's it for? It's for the key decision makers in your agency. If you're a one-person agency, it's you in Starbucks. And if there's 100 people, it's the senior management team. And the purpose of the meeting is right at the top, always about why are we doing this? I talk about the objectives that you want from the meeting, what outcomes you expect. Put in place a car park. So for things which are interesting but aren't relevant to the purpose of this meeting, we'll just put it on a board elsewhere, and we'll just have a car park that we can put those things in. And then we're going to go through this game changer strategy process I'm going to show you, which is where are we now? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? What are we going to measure? And then finish the meeting with actions, who's going to do what by when, and next steps, what's going to happen next. That is your strategy meeting. That is your kickoff meeting, high level. So let me just drill down now into this a little bit more. So the meeting itself, where are you now? Where do you want to be? How are you going to get there? What are the measures on the way? Okay. So one, how good is your agency? Whenever we say, because this is the starting point, where are we now? Whenever you say to people, how good is your agency? They always come up, first of all, with the financials, turnover, profit, cash. People are obsessed with finance. And the reason they're obsessed with finance is because they're consultants, they're accountants, they're business schools, all say it's all about money. But, and this is a really important thing about when you're trying to do the plan for the agency, your financial performance is simply a consequence of how good you are at marketing, getting people to buy from you, and operations, doing the doing. That is my point. Finance is a consequence of marketing and operations. So yes, finance is really important, but question, how good is your marketing? Question, how good is your operations? With this, what you can do is you can score yourself a score out of 10, where 10's a high score, 0's a low score. So my finance is, say, a 6. I'll put it up there. 6. My marketing is, say, a 4 out of 10, and let's say my operations is an 8. You'll find your finance performance is nearly always an average of marketing operations. So now we're starting to formulate how good is the agency right now. Finance, marketing, operations, and then underneath that I would put people and culture. Give yourself a score out of 10 for each of those boxes. That's the pre-work you give people. That's the thing you discuss in that opening meeting. So now we just go back to what we're talking about. How good are you? Next stage, you write that down. You write it down in your flip chart. Next stage is, what do you want to be? Standard business school stuff. But if you can put this, tool number 2, if you can put this into words, a one-pager, why are we doing what we do? What do we want to be? What numbers do we need to hit? How are we going to do it? Steps on the way. What are we going to measure? Sounds like a big deal. But if you can nail this, what do you want to be? Where do we want to be in 3 years' time? We're doing this because we want to show people that social media really can add value to their businesses. We want to be the number one in the county. We want to be the best in the north. We want to be the best in estate realtors. Mission, we want to hit these numbers: turnover, profit, cash, number of staff. How are we going to do it? Strategy by being faster, smarter, brighter, friendlier. Steps on the way: an FD, a new office, 100th, a 10th, 5th employee. And what are we going to measure? That's the bit that people get really stuck with. So how good is your agency? What do you want to be? You then use a roll of wallpaper, big piece of wallpaper, roll it out, and on the very left-hand side, you put down where you are now. On the very right-hand side, you put where you want to be. This is a tip, on a piece of wallpaper. And then you get Post-its, and you write down the actions required to actually get to where you need to be in 3 years' time. So it looks roughly like that. If I do this, I do that. If I need a new intern, that's going to cost me how much? If you've got 5 new staff, then we'll need new offices. So you use the Post-its to create a Gantt chart for where you're going. What's going to happen, by when, by whom? And again, you could do this as a 1-person business, 10-person business, or a 100-person business. And then finally, create yourself a dashboard. You remember we talked about KPIs and all the things you measure. What I'm saying is you take 4 measures for your finance, 4 measures for your marketing, 4 for operations, and 4 for people and culture. That's it. This is the dashboard is like the lights in the airplane cockpit. How high, how fast, how much fuel. And you can create a dashboard, tool number 4, for your business that then measures your performance month by month. So in a nutshell, there it is. I mean, I've shown you the whole thing, really. How good is your business? Finance, marketing, operation, scores out of 10. What is it you want to be? Purpose, vision, mission, strategy, milestones, KPIs. A wallpaper exercise so that you map out, this is where we want to be in 3 years' time. Now together as a team, we map out what happens when and who happens when, and if that happens, then what happens. and then a simple dashboard to measure the performance of the business. This is what these high performers do. They run this through. So what are we talking about? We're setting the trajectory. How fast are we going to grow? Is it 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% a year? We're setting big goals. What are the big numbers that we're trying to hit? What's the increase in turnover? What's the EBITDA, the profit? What's the number of staff we're going to hit? We're then figuring out how to measure those scores, and we're also putting scores in the dashboard. We drill down, so we have a one page, these are all one pages, a one page finance plan, one page marketing plan, one page operations plan. We check in on a weekly, quarterly, monthly basis. We have a schedule of when those meetings happen, and then you execute like hell. Running a business, 5% of it is a strategy, 95% is actually just about executing, just to make it happen. And you document the whole thing so it becomes a rinse and repeat so that it can happen again. So by having the monthly meetings, you're able to correct your direction, so it's a bit like they say, the aeroplane is only pointing in the right direction 5% of the time, 95% of the time it's correcting. So you're able to correct it so that your agency actually delivers and gets what you want. So that's the game changer. So what we've given you, and there are tools to share, is a process for the actual meeting itself, and a process which we focused on mainly today is understanding how good the agency is. Step 1, that might be an hour or so. Step 2 is where do you want to be? Step 3 is mapping it out, and step 4 is a dashboard to measure it. That's a very, very fast explanation. I'm sure there's tons of questions, and I'd love to take questions from that now. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Robert. That was amazing. It's always amazing to me how much information you can pack into a short speech like that. So I want to remind everybody that all the tools that Robert talked about here, all of these agendas and checklists and ways for you to actually execute on this information is in that link that you're seeing on the bottom of your screen. I also want to give you guys a little insider tip. If you stick with us to the end, we're going to be inviting you to participate in something for Agorapulse that you're going to find super, super interesting. So that's a little teaser. Stay tuned with us to the end. And I'm going to start with questions. I have been talking to agencies leading up to this incredible opportunity, Robert, and I have one question that's coming up over and over again with agencies. They want to know when and how and if they should raise their prices. It comes up over and over again.
Right. The answer is yes, 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 yes. And in case there's any confusion, yes. Okay. Why should you put your prices up? If you're selling for $10 and let's just say your costs are $7, so you make $3 profit on each sale. If you put your prices up by 10%, okay, you can afford to lose 25% of your customers and you still have the same amount of money in your back pocket. So you put your prices up by 10%, you lose 25% of your customers, but you still have the same amount of money in your back pocket. And when you put your prices up, you lose what I call the pond life and the scum, who are penny pinching and mean, and it's never good enough, and they always want the very, very best deal. What you want for your agency is people who understand the value that you give, and they will become your ambassadors and they'll become loyal. The penny pinching, mean ones won't. The point is that if you go the other way, trying to reduce your price, you will always be competing with the person who's got the deepest pockets, and I reckon that's probably not you. So let's just do the numbers now. You put your prices down by 10%. You were charging $10. You now charge $9. It's still costing you $7 to deliver. In order to stay in the same place, you need to sell 50% more stuff, 50% more stuff. So you were working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You now need to work another 2.5 days just to stay in the same place, which is Saturday, Sunday, and Monday morning. So you end up becoming a massively busy fool. Secondly, you start attracting the really mean people who want everything, and they phone you on a Saturday and a Sunday, and it's never good enough, and they never recommend you. They don't recognize the value you charge. And thirdly, you feel you feel a bit dirty selling on price in that way, because because they always screw you down. Now, we all offer a discount really easily. People say, how much is it? You say it's $1,000 a month, and they say, could you make it 900? And we just say yes. And my point is this: you have confidence in your product and your service, and think about the fact that people actually do like to spend money often. Not everyone is just competing on price. We think they are, but they're not. They're competing on added value. So think about how you can add more value. If you can, put up price would be my number one tip. And normally you can.
Yeah, it's so scary when you're in that position to raise prices. You worry so much about losing people, but to your point, the ones you lose are the ones that aren't really adding to the agency anyway. So I think that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
I've said wherever you go, people say, oh, it's different in Missouri, oh, it's different in Ukraine, oh, it's different in Singapore. Wherever they are, they think it's different. And the thing is, Michael Porter said it. Competing on price is a mug's game, and you cheat yourself, because you've still got the tax to pay, you've still got the people to pay, you've still got to pay your rent, and everyone is always amazed at how loyal customers will stay with them, and in fact wonder why the prices haven't gone up before. Now, the problem you've got now is you've got 6% inflation kicking in right the way across the world. Yeah. So we need to be able to demonstrate we can add more awesome value. Put up prices, but people shouldn't be buying your hourly rate. They should be buying the value that you add. That's another issue about pricing.
Yes. And that idea of being able to prove your value, I'm going to do another teaser here. Stay tuned to the end, and Agorapulse has something to invite you to that'll help you prove the value of what you're bringing to the table. So
I think you have to demonstrate the value. I think sometimes it's one of the things which we don't do. We don't say, people only buy one agency at a time, so they don't know whether you're delivering awesome value or not. So as soon as you say, well, the benchmark for your industry would be this, but we're getting that. As soon as you say, typically we expect this many leads or this many links, but we're getting that, you're showing people the value that you're offering.
Right, and that makes it a lot easier to justify raising prices if you can prove that value. So I have another question here. It's an interesting one. We have an agency that is looking to make their first significant full-time hire in 2022, but they're torn between hiring somebody to help them out with the finances and someone to help them grow the business through business development. And based on your intro here, I'm guessing that I think who you're going to recommend, but I want to hear, who is the first hire, the finance person or the business development person for this agency?
So firstly, do those scores, finance, marketing, operations, to discover what's good and what's bad about your agency. Most agencies score themselves about a 6 for finance. It's okay, I've got a car, we go on holiday. Most agencies score themselves a 3 or a 4 for marketing. We could be doing so much better at getting customers to buy from us. And most agencies score themselves an 8 for operations. My word, we're awesome at what we do. Now, so you need to understand where the strengths and the weaknesses are. Now, there is no point going for the marketing piece, selling more stuff if you're not making any money. So this isn't necessarily about the finance recruit or the marketing recruit, but just philosophically, there's no point getting in. Everyone thinks, get the marketing person in quick to sell more stuff. Marketing's only 4 out of 10. We need to get it up. There's no point getting the marketing person in if you're only making 5 cents in the dollar. What you've got to do is you've got to figure out how to make sure you're getting 20, 25, 30 cents in the dollar first. Okay, so how do you do that? 1, you put up prices. 2, you decrease direct costs. 3, you fix your underperformers. I mean, that's the model. Okay, so put up your prices, decrease your direct costs, and then fix your underperforming customers, your underperforming suppliers, your underperforming staff. You've got to fix them, make tough decisions. Only when you're getting 15, 20, 25 cents in the dollar should you then hit the sales button. So that's point 1. Okay. Point 2 is, it depends where your strength is as a owner founder. If your strength is in the marketing and you're rubbish at numbers, then get someone to do the numbers. If your strength is in the finance, but you're not great at doing the marketing, then you do it. The point is, this finance, marketing, operations piece, excuse me, is a juggle. Okay, so it's about juggling all the balls and keeping all the balls in the air. Okay, and if you don't keep the balls in the air, you go bust. So accountants only look at finance, marketing people only look at marketing, operations people only look at operations. As a business owner, you need to look at all three. So you need to figure out what your strength is and how the business can best use you. And then you need to build the team that can support you to do that. It changes with the size of the agency, but I mean, that's in some senses not answering the question. And I think the other thing about this question is you don't have to buy whole people. You know, with VAs and so on and so forth, you could get a financial controller on a rope. I mean, you know, a lot of agencies I know have a bookkeeper in for a day a week or 2 days a week. You know, and that as a VA, and they can also do the same with biz dev. So you don't have to go the whole hog and get 5 days a week. You can have the part-time option.
I think that's great advice, and it perfectly maps out the logic to answer that question for yourself, which is not just going to help this person who asked this question, but it's good advice for everybody. And I think as business owners, sometimes we get so caught up in doing the work, we don't necessarily take the time to work on the business. So we're doing the work, so we're not working on the business. And I think what you've just mapped out here is step back, evaluate the 3 areas, do your scores, and those numbers will help you make the right decision. So I think that's fantastic.
And also,
so
I think
I've got another.
So it's also inevitable that as the agency grows from 1 person to 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 30, that you as a business owner will almost certainly have to change your role from being entirely in the business to flipping around to being on the business. So when you've got a 20-person agency, it's all about how do you get your people to do what they need to do. But when you've got a 1-person business, it's all about how do I do everything. So there's this kind of transition from owner, founder, bottle washer, doing everything to becoming the business leader.
Right. And that's so tough to know when to make that shift. And I think the 20-person number, I've heard that from multiple different sources, that 20 persons really the linchpin, the turning point. So I've got another question here that I think is super interesting. I've got someone here who runs a small agency. They want to get bigger. That's their dream. Last year and all the upheaval of last year, they got an opportunity to do some subcontract work with a bigger agency. And it was great for the bottom line. It kept the lights on, but it kept them from investing in their own business. It kept them from growing their own client relationships because they were busy doing this other agency's work. So the larger agency wants to keep doing it. Our agency is the smaller agency, and they don't know if this is in their best interest. Do they keep doing this work that's being offered to them, or do they put a stop to it so they can focus on growing their own relationships and their own business?
Oh, really good question. So you can make really good money by being outsourced or by being the white label. There are a lot of agencies that make really good money by being white label. But to be a successful white label agency, you need to be incredibly efficient, because let's just keep the numbers really simple. If you're selling at $50 an hour, the internal rate, they'll be selling you at $100 an hour, and therefore you've got to really keep them, keep everything really clean and tight. Now, one option is to go to the big agency and say, look, we're happy. One obviously option is to put up your prices, just say we're happy doing this, but we now need 10% more. Another one would be to contract in with them to say, look, we're doing this, but as a result of this, we're losing other business. So what we want is some kind of guarantee of the work. So we'd like a 2-year contract with you, covering 40, 60, 80, 100 hours a week. And that way we can fix a price with you, guarantee delivery, guaranteed stuff for you. So that's one way you could fix that in. Or you go the other route. The reason that the larger agency charges more is because they put so much more money into branding and marketing and so on and so forth. And the reason you're happy to take a lower fee as the outsourced agency is because you're not doing that. So it is perfectly possible to run a really good business as an outsourced white label agency. It's just a very, very different model. The outsourced agency will tend to have a very, very narrow uh, expertise so that they can turn stuff around very, very quickly. So it's not about projects; it's about systems and processes. And I think you just need to look at the relationship with the larger agency. You are dependent, and that's why you need to offset that. Um, but it's a choice. Do you want to become a hugely efficient machine, or do you want to take control of your own marketing and your own direction, but have to invest in order to get the higher fee rate?
That's good, and it's interesting that all of these decisions really come back to knowing where you are right now. Knowing where you are right now in these areas makes it so much easier to make these decisions. If this agency is really struggling with marketing, this relationship could be super important in helping them get financially stable so that eventually they can do more of their own work and seek out more of their own clients. So I'm starting to see how
Yeah.
these knowing your numbers in each of these categories is going to
Yes.
really help you make all kinds of business decisions, not just do a great kickoff meeting.
And I think the grass is always greener on the other side. That's the other trouble. But I mean, the and of course, to my opening point, whatever the kickoff meeting is, what is the purpose? What are we trying to achieve? And I would go back to, oh, so you're now doing outsourced business for you're now the outsourced partner, the white labeler. How does that help serve your purpose? How does that help you get you what you want? Does it make the boat go quicker? Does it get you nearer where you want to go to or not? So keep on asking yourself, why are we doing this? Is this just something that's nice, or whether does it actually get to where we want to go faster?
Right. Okay, I've got another good one here. So this agency asked, my goal is to sell my agency this year. Sell out. Is that something
Right.
that I can bring openly to a strategy session, a kickoff session? Is that one of the goals that I can tell my team, this is one of my goals I want to accomplish and I would like all of us to work together on it?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, you have to, because unless your team understand what you're trying to do, there's no way they can help you. Their antennae can't go up and they can't be listening out. They won't notice things. So, in my opinion, you say, guys, gals, this is what we're trying to do. By close of play, I'm hoping to have an offer on the table. That explains why we're spending more time tidying stuff up, putting process and systems in. That explains why you're going to see people in suits coming in and out of the business. And to make this happen, this is what I want you to do, or you tell me what you think you can do to best add to that. But my point would be that you should reward them for their contribution to the journey, because otherwise they think, oh, you're just going to cash out and go and get a Ferrari, and it's all right for you. So you may want to think about saying, we're currently doing $1 million in turnover. I think I can sell the business for 2 million, and of that 2 million, there's going to be a pot of 10% that's going to be shared out by you guys if we make it. There's no reason why you shouldn't incentivize them to work, because the reverse is you don't tell them anything, and then they don't know what's going on, apart from the fact suddenly these people in suits have appeared in the agency, and suddenly you keep rushing off to meetings and things and having secret phone calls. I think it's a team effort.
I think that's great advice, Robert. And I think sometimes transparency is underrated. And I think that if you're open and honest with people, you give them the opportunity to surprise you and support you. And I think that's really fantastic advice. That's a tough situation. So
Yeah.
here I've got an agency. They came to me and they said they only accomplished 50% of what they set out to do last year. So they made their best effort at a plan. They set out their goals and only hit 50%. And they don't know what they did wrong. They don't know if they should keep those objectives that failed last year and tack them onto this year. Do they start over fresh? Like, what's the advice,
Okay.
Robert?
Okay, so what they did was they had their strategy meeting, they wrote their big strategy paper, and they tied it all up, and then they put it at the bottom of the desk in the bottom drawer, and they didn't go back to it for a year. You know, the business plan, the strategy plan is simply making your mistakes on paper. Yeah, that's all it is. It's making your mistakes on paper. So if you realize when you do that wallpaper exercise, oh heck, that means we need 15 people, but if we have 15 people and we're only turning over $1 million, and with that weight, oh, we're only going to, that doesn't work. Let's try it again. Oh, let's do it $10, 800,000. So 10 people, $800,000. Oh, that's profitable because you've got more people at that level, less people at that level. So the strategic planning, business planning is making mistakes on paper. Step one. Okay. Step two is if that works and you've got evidence to prove it'll work. So for instance, you know that for every 5 meetings you have, you write 3 proposals, and for every 3 proposals you get 1 piece of work. On average, a piece of work's worth $20,000. Therefore, you can now do the sums to how many new pieces of work we need to get. Therefore, you can now figure out how many meetings you need to have. So once you've been in the business for a year or two, you can see these patterns appearing, the patterns coming out. So the plan that I'm talking about, you revisit on a monthly basis with that dashboard. And if you're not hitting the numbers in the dashboard, personally in the dashboard, I'd mark your numbers red for not working, well, brown for disaster, red for not working, amber for okay, and green for fantastic. You need to look at your 16 numbers in your dashboard and figure out which ones you're not hitting and do something about it. And if you do that on a monthly basis, back to the aeroplane that's never quite pointing in the right direction, you're always self-correcting. So you get to the end of month 1, sales are 10% down. Okay, we need to try 10% harder in sales. Okay, we need to sell more of this product. Okay, let's stop selling this way. Okay, let's stop doing cold call sales. They don't work. Let's try an email campaign. Okay, let's try more marketing. So the monthly meeting enables you to revisit your plan and possibly recalculate what you need to do. It's pointless waiting to the end of the year to discover whether you've nailed it or not. You need to be looking on a monthly basis and a quarterly basis at your past results. So you're 50% down. You're 50% down either because your plan was just sky high and you wrote it after a couple of tequilas, which is perfectly possible. We can conquer the world. Or alternatively, you failed in execution. And I think, to my point earlier on, it's 5% about not in brain power, but it's 5% about the strategy. It's 95% about execution. My experience is that people have great ideas in the strategy meeting. We're going to do 10 calls a week. We're going to do 5 meetings a week. We're going to email 100 people a week. We're going to follow 20 people a day on LinkedIn. And they don't actually execute. So I'd much rather you are honest with yourselves about what you can do and deliver on it, and high five at the end of each month, rather than every month go, we were down by 20%, we were down, and nobody likes to be in a losing team. So I would do the planning session more or less as I said, but have your head up, your antenna up, aware of the outside world, and be honest about what's achievable, because this is not an Excel spreadsheet thing where you just multiply everything by 1.5. It's about what you can actually deliver.
So would you recommend when you're telling someone to do this new strategy session for the year, do you think that you should get everybody that's in that strategy session together again once a month to benchmark? Is that the minimum? Is that the recommended amount?
Yeah. How many people in the agency? So it's a bit of a circular thing. You have a finance function, which could be 1 or 5 people, or it could be the boss. You have a marketing and sales function, which could be 1 or 5 people, could just be the boss. we have an operations function. And what I'm saying is whether you're a one-person business or a 100-person business, you need a simple measures for each of those departments. And I'm saying 4 measures because you can't remember more than 4. And that and you have a calendar for the year. So once a year we have our big kickoff meeting. We have quarterly reviews for each of those departments and of the strategy, and then on a monthly basis we meet. So I'm in a relatively small business, but on the 4th day after month end we have a finance review and a marketing review and an operations review. So the people involved, it's not relevant whether it's 1 or 10 or 50 in the business. Each of those departments just nail what they've done in the last month and what they're going to do in the next month. And then 4 days after that, we have the board meeting where all those results are brought into one. But again, it's a one-pager. All I want at my board meeting is financial department, give me 4 bullet points, just 4 bullet points on how things have gone, because I only need to know about the big stuff. Marketing department, 4 big bullet points. Marketing department, operations department, 4 big bullet points. Operations department, 4 big bullet points. And the dashboard, 4 bullet points. It is maybe it's 1.5 pages, but it's a very, very simple document where a stranger, where the non-executive director, where the banker could come in and just look at that 1.5 pages and go, okay, I can see where everything's marked green, that's working. I can see where everything's marked red, that's not working. This is what I think this business needs to do, move on. And so for the business owner and the owners of the departments, they can quickly see whether they are overperforming or underperforming or whether everything's going okay. So yeah, so you have these, I mean, it could be mini meetings, it could be just 20 minutes. You know, finance, how's that going? Turnover, profit, cash. Marketing, how many new clients did we get? How much coverage do we get? Operations, how many clients have we got? How happy are they? How are our people? It doesn't need to be, every meeting doesn't need to be 10 days in preparation.
But it has to be consistent. And I think that's what you're saying too. I heard a great quote one time, you have to inspect what you expect. And yes. I think that there's a lot of truth to that when you're running a team, any size team, as you said. If you set a goal, the winning or losing of that goal will be in how consistently you check up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are, it's the Tom Peters thing about, you are what you measure. And if
I love that.
And you are your diary as well. So if you're not, and of course the problem is if you're like the previous question and you're 50% down, you don't want to look at the numbers because it's really bad. If through COVID, for instance, you're not looking, which is the one time when people should have been looking at their numbers more than any other time. But you don't because it's unpleasant. But actually the numbers, I would turn it around. The numbers are the thing which will make you work. In the businesses that we've looked at and worked with, what the successful agencies have in common. So I wrote a book called Grow Your Digital Agency. It's actually the wrong title of the book. The book should have been called In Praise of the Dull, Boring Stuff, because the really great agencies are all over the numbers. They're all over systems. So they don't do projects that don't make money. They don't do projects unless it hits a certain profit margin. They don't employ people unless they've got the skills. They've got all their skills and processes in place. The kind of the sexy arm waving stuff is a nice to have, but the actual back office grunt work of processing the systems and the numbers and spreadsheets or Airtable or whatever it is, that's where the successful businesses make their successes, by being all over what's going on and being on top of stuff, rather than getting to the end of the month and going, oh, we made a profit, or oh, we didn't make a profit. And that's really difficult because it's not glamorous.
Right. Well, it's interesting too with Agorapulse. so much of what we do is that nitty gritty behind the scenes. So much of what we help them manage is that unsexy stuff, the scheduling, the posting, the measuring, the reporting. And a lot of people get into this work because they're creative and they want to do that super sexy stuff at the front. But it is very important, Robert. It's a good reminder that that unsexy stuff is what keeps the lights on, keeps us thriving, keeps us succeeding. So
it's way more than way more than that. If you look at really high performing agencies, what are they doing? They may not be that great at what they do. Yeah, surprise, surprise. They're awesome at marketing and selling, but they may not be that great at what they do. So what they're really good at is they're really good at making the sale. And then people don't like to admit that they weren't as great as they were. But just going back to what I was saying, what they are really, really good at is they are all over the numbers and the processes and the systems. They've got their finger on the pulse so that 4 days after the month end, they can produce a report so that 4 days after that meeting, they can have their strategy meeting, which means they're making decisions month by month on current data. They're not waiting until the end of the year for their accountant to give them their numbers to figure out what's going on. They're actually running live, and as a result of that, they can adjust things, they can turn things on and off. And within the COVID, that's what the really successful agencies were doing. They were literally running not annual plans, but 12-week plans, quarterly plans, and they were adjusting and revising every week as they discovered they could work from home, they couldn't work from home, clients were falling away, clients weren't falling away. They become very, very tactical.
okay, so I've got another question here, and it's a sticky one, Robert. It's a sticky question.
Go for it.
So we have one team in this agency that I spoke to, they have one team that's underperforming. They wouldn't tell me which one, but one of the teams is underperforming, and they're probably going to need to rebuild it from the ground up. It's probably going to be a complete scrap and wash and rinse and repeat. Try to do something different. So the whole department's going. They don't know if they should wait to do their kickoff meeting until that team is rebuilt, or do they go ahead and just kick off, set their strategies for the year, and move forward with the team that they have now?
I mean, the kickoff meeting in January, or the kickoff meeting in January or February is an arbitrary date in a way. You can have it at any time. So that's the first thing. As in the annual business plan, I'm not a huge fan of an annual business plan personally. I right now I would operate a 13-week year. So from January 1, that's 13 weeks, and then you start again with a new business plan. Again, if you're doing one-page plans, it's totally doable. It's only not doable if you're obsessively doing 500-page plans. So what the business is doing is, back to aeroplanes, it's trying to change the engine in midair. It's got to keep things going. I would announce the scrapping of the department and have a meeting with the rest of the business at that time, saying Department A is no longer going to be here. How are we going to accommodate that, and explain what the next 13 weeks looks like, or till when we get that department up and running. And then I'd have another kickoff meeting then, because the kickoff meeting it's not a big deal, if that makes sense. It's half a day or a day of the key people's time. I think you need to have it to say, we're closing down Department A. How are things going to run without it? And then when you've got Department A version 2 in place, you can say, right, now you've got Department A version 2. This is how we want things to work. Have another one. So it sounds like you have almost like an interim meeting, and then you go back onto your schedule.
Now, I think that's a tough situation, and that's a good way to navigate it, again, with transparency.
Yeah,
you're open with everyone, and
Yep.
that's it's the best way to move the rest of the team forward is with the reality. They have to know all the information.
Yeah, and then trouble is they're intelligent people. So if you don't give them all the information, they'll make it up, and they'll join the dots. They'll join the dots in the most mysterious way, and you kind of hear these stories. Oh, I heard that so and so was
Right.
doing that with so and so, and it's like all gobbledygook. So yeah, just deal with it head on. I mean, nobody likes going to work when there's all mystery and cloak and dagger and confusion,
Agreed.
and people want to be part of what's going on. So yeah, there's tough conversations. I'm afraid your department's going and it's not worked, and we believe it's not worked for these reasons. And I know you work really hard. And yeah, it's like that other department's going because da 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 da. And of course, we know that everyone's thinking, "What's in it for me?" They're not always thinking about the business. But I think it's okay. I believe in a thing called radical candor. There's a book on the very subject, which is about being not brutal. It's not like being a bully, but being very straightforward and very honest, and not. It's about not mincing your words. But it's also about giving people options. So how did your presentation go? I felt that you were umming and mumbling a little bit. And I know someone who's a presentation coach who could help you improve that. So it's not just slapping someone around the head; it's actually giving them solutions. And that happens when you really care about the person. So that's one key thing about it. But also that you feel they could be doing even better. So other people can't guess what you're thinking. You have to give them the feedback so that they can actually respond to it, and you have to be able to take that feedback yourself.
It's interesting that you mentioned that book. That's one of our core values as a company, radical candor. So we've read that book, and it's fantastic, and it is the kindest way, even if it seems a little tough sometimes. It is the kindest way to deal with people. So
Yeah,
Robert, our time. Oh, go ahead.
time is up.
Well, our time is coming to a close. I have one more question I want to sneak in under the
Oh,
wire, though. I've got an agency they want to grow, and they've noticed that their pay-per-click business, this ad business, very narrow niche, is taking off, and they're getting referrals for it. And they're wondering if it's something that they should niche into. When they do their kickoff meeting, the decision is going to be: do we put more money and effort behind the pay-per-click and try to niche, or do we stay kind of as a good at all things marketing agency?
okay, so I'm a huge fan of, on our side of the water we call it niche, but niche. I'm a huge fan of niching, and I'm a huge fan of niching within a niche. Okay, so don't just do PPC, do PPC for lawyers. Don't just do SEO, do SEO for accountants. Why? Because you're in a much smaller pond. Very few of the generalists can compete with you because you know more about the pond than anyone else, and that means you can charge uh, relatively premium prices relatively quickly because you know more about your clients than anyone else does. So I'm a real fan of niching. Be careful, of course. Look what happened. We had a client whose niche was wedding venues, and of course, overnight with
Oh,
COVID, they
yeah.
lost virtually the entire business. But they changed their niche, so they survived. So I'm a great fan of investing heavily in a niche because you can do it very, very quickly. You can become an expert very, very quickly, and you understand the marketplace better than anywhere else. I think you need to make a decision in your own mind about whether you just are a single niche. So, for instance, grow your digital agency. That's all we do. We work with agency founders of digital agencies. We don't work with accountants. We don't work with lawyers. We don't work with cocktail bars. And recognize the downside, but most of the time it is way more profitable to work in a niche within a niche because you become maybe not the number one, but in the top three really, really quickly. So you could work with accountants in your state. You could work with divorce lawyers in your state. And by saying, we are the only PPC agency that works with divorce lawyers in this state, because flip it round, when someone's got a divorce, they look up, what do they look up? and you'll be front of mind in terms of making that happen for them.
That, I love niching. I love it too. I think it is the future. I think that, and I think it's happening now already. But so I 100% agree with you, Robert, on that one. And it's good advice to even see yourself in your position that you choose for your agency. Choose it based on the niche that's going to give you the best chance of being the top. When people go looking for a divorce attorney, pay per click, your name comes up. So that's wonderful. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that they can get their tools. So I want to make sure we show that link one more time about downloading all the tools that were mentioned in this session. And the last thing that I want to do is make sure to invite everybody to participate in something exciting going on at Agorapulse. All the unsexy stuff that we talked about with measuring. Agorapulse is launching a new tool that's going to measure the business impact of social media. And it is super exciting. It's a game changer. And we are, for VIP people, we're putting them on a waiting list to be the first ones to test it out and see it. So if we can put that link up, you put your name on the waiting list, and as soon as we have some information, as soon as it's ready to test, you will be on the short list. So that's your surprise insider tip for sticking with us through the end. Robert, this was lovely. I so appreciate you. And I look forward to having you back again. And thanks for everybody that joined us. And have a great week and a great kickoff meeting. Talk to you guys later.